Alright, we're going to start building this kit with the E-sprue. The E-sprue has parts that we need for step 1, 2, and 3 for the most part. And I'm going to find all those parts and lay them out, and we'll start building them. It looks like it's going to be parts that go in the cockpit. So let's find the parts on this E-sprue. And here is a sub-assembly I've put together as a result of the first 4 steps. And all that remains on this particular sub-assembly is to do some painting on it. So I'm going to do that right now. And once it gets painted, I will be putting it into the left side of the fuselage, the cockpit area, along with another part that I haven't found yet, but I believe it's some sort of exhaust system that we're going to be putting in at the same time. So let's move on. Well, once I get this subassembly and this exhaust system placed into the left side of the fuselage, that will complete through step 5. So we'll see what happens. See how that goes. On the E-sprue, we find the parts to represent the exhaust right here. And I'm going to paint those while they're still on the sprue. Makes it easier. I started painting up the inside framing for the cockpit. I still got to do a little more on that. Do a little dry brushing to bring out some details. And then on the inside of the fuselage, they do not give you a color to paint it. So I'll just make something up. Okay, here's what we got as we progress through step 5. The left half of the fuselage with the internal caging or tubing with some of the levers. Here are both inside parts finished in the fuselage. The framing inside the cockpit, some of the instruments and levers all glued in, and I have painted them and used a little bit of dry brushing on them to help define them. And also what has been put in are both the mufflers, or the exhausts, not mufflers, excuse me, and these front grills, or front air intake screens have been put in. And so what has to go next here is the radio platform and the pilot seat and the instrument panel and a few little things like that are going to be next. So I'm going to find all those parts now and we'll start gluing them together. All right. Both sides of the fuselage have the interior pieces all installed. And I have painted them and done a little bit of dry brushing to help bring out some of the detail and definition. And then the instrument panel is all done. That's going to go in next, and then we will put put the two halves of the fuselage together. I am now going to be putting the two halves of the fuselage together, and we're going to see how well it all lines up. Got plenty of things that have to line up before it'll go together right. Hopefully I got all these radio platform, the seat, instrument panel, bulkhead, this vent here, and the rear wheel. Hopefully they're going to line up and allow the fuselage to close up. Alright, here's the problem. The fuselage halves will not go together around the cockpit area. I've run into this sort of thing before with other model kits. Follow all the directions, put everything in right, go to close it up, and it won't close up. And it is really hard to tell exactly what's keeping it from closing up. As you can see right there, big gap. Doesn't want to close up. Back here, not a big gap, but certainly a gap that will not close up. If you squeeze it real hard, you can get part of it to close up, and then it just springs open again. So that's not fitting right. Up here in the nose, went together well. The tail section, where the rear wheel is, went together well. But it's all up in here, where this cockpit is, and all the dials and the bulkheads and all that stuff that we put in. So, something's too wide in here. Something is making it hang up. And what that is, I have no idea. So I'm going to have to keep taking this thing apart, sanding it, put it back together until I get it to the point where it will go together in this area where the cockpit is. Alright, well, I've been down this road before. This isn't a Tamiya kit. It's a nice kit, but it isn't a Tamiya. I'm happy with the way the interior came out. All the knobs and switches and instrument panel and all that good stuff. See if I can get it to focus. You can see it. Can't get it to focus. There sort of is right there. You can see the instrument panel. I used the decals on it. They settled down okay. Okay, so we are through step 13 now. Fuselage is put together, the cockpit inside. I was able to take care of the big gaps that were shown. Had to do a little sanding in certain places. Now, step 14, such as it is doing one thing. That's taking this little piece right here and gluing it onto the bottom of the nose here. So it's just a matter of laying it on there. Like that. And we'll just put a little bit of glue on that. Okay, now that step 14 is done, we have this plate put on down here in the nose. We set that aside and move on to the next steps. And the next several steps are building up the engine. Alright, at this stage of the build, when we get to step 21, 22, you have to make a decision whether or not you're going to build this thing with the closed bonnet or the open bonnet. So, in other words, are you going to build a version that all the, you know, the bonnet, as they call it, over the top of the engine and stuff, is removed, open, or closed up? I'm choosing to do it closed up, just because I don't know, I don't want to, I'm being kind of lazy in a way. I don't want to build up this whole engine thing and go through all the steps you have to, I mean, there's a ton of steps you have to do to make it presentable if you're going to have it open. You know, if I was going to enter this into a show or something like that, if I felt that confident, had that kind of skill, I'd definitely do that. But I'm going to build it with the bonnet closed. So we put the engine in there like this, so that the propeller shaft is out like this. Then we take these two pieces right here, and they are going to go on top and close this all up. So that's what I'm going to do right now. We'll get these pieces off and we'll attach them to the front part of the fuselage there over the engine. So I'll just clean these up and then we'll put them on. Okay. This is where I'm at as far as the fuselage goes. I've got all the bonnets in the closed position. Exhaust is installed in this, coming out the sides of the nose there. Rear wheel gear is down. Cockpit is all in and done. Okay, so this brings us to step 35. And it looks like we're going to be adding a few more pieces to the upper reaches of the cockpit. And then we have, looks like the radiator, I think. And there's a few more pieces going to add to the cockpit, and then they show putting a part of the canopy on, but I don't know if I'm going to do that yet. Then we move on to adding the rest of the canopy. And then it looks like we're going to get together something here that I'm not sure exactly what this is supposed to be. But anyway, for step 35, we're going to find, looks like, two parts that are going to go inside the cockpit area. So let's find those and install them. Okay, a couple of things here. In these steps, 35, 36, 37, 38, 35, I put the part number E55 in, like they show. This part F4, and I made a note here to do later, it's a clear part. and I am not going to put it in yet until later, because I don't want it to be in the way of painting the main body of this airplane. I don't want to have to try and mask it off, in other words. And then you go down to step 37, same sort of thing. There's two parts there, E40 and E59, which I put in. I don't know if they'll show up in the camera, but that's them right there at the front of the cockpit. Put those in. And they also show you they want you to put the rear section of the canopy in. But I'm not going to do that yet either, because for the same reasons, I don't want to have to mask it off, and I don't want it to be in the way of painting. Then we go over here to step 38, and step 38 shows putting the rest of the canopy on. And as I indicated in the instructions, that will be done later also. So that means we are going to jump ahead to step 39 and step 40. And there are several parts here to put together, and we'll just see where that leads us from there. All right. What is going on now is I am doing steps 41, 42, and 43, and 44. That's this whole page right here. And this is building up the landing gear bays. And here you can see I've started putting the pieces in to form the landing gear bays. Step 41 is actually attaching this big air scoop with the radiator in it. That went on nicely. And then I switched over to building up the landing gear bays. So I just finished step 43. Now I'm going to move on to step 44, and it will be adding more walls and dividers and things like that onto this landing gear bay assembly. So, okay, here we are through step 44. We have a lot of this interior wheel structure, wheel bays put together. Some of these parts fit really well, some of them didn't. But for the most part, they fit together well. A little fiddly here and there, but I did manage to get them all together and put it on the bottom side of this wing. Alright, so that is through step 44. The inside portion of the wing where the wheels will be stored in flight. Alright, at this stage of the build, we are going to be putting the wings together. The wheel wells are all done. Now we put these two top half pieces of the wing onto the bottom half. So we got our tape ready, and we're going to take these wing sections off the sprue, get our pieces of tape ready to go, and we'll start putting it together. And that happens now. Alright, the wings are put together now. Now I just have to do a little sanding around the seams where they join together. There aren't any real fitting issues or bad gaps. Just got to sand these seams. And that's the way the wheel wells look. They will get painted later. But there it is.